Good morning and welcome. Patriot Radio News Hour, Joe and Jason on this Thursday. And, man, 2024, what a year it is going to be. We've got all the nonsense on the political side, all the trials of Trump and people voting for none of the above. You know, the Republicans did it in Nevada to Nikki Haley, you know, when they had the primary, not the caucus. Trump wasn't on the primary. And none of the above. And then it happened to the Democrats the other day in Michigan. 100,000 Michigan Democratic voters said, yeah, we don't like Joe Biden today. Some Democrat I never heard of. Apparently she was in the race, then she was out of the race. Now she's back in the race. It seems like now the Republicans and the Democrats are going to have possibly somebody still left in who would be nowhere close to getting the popular vote to be the nominee for president. But Jason, as we know, that doesn't actually mean anything because you have to go to the convention where these selected individuals will actually get to decide who the two nominees are. So now it looks like it. Well, we'll see how all this shakes out, but it looks like both sides now are going to have somebody that says, well, see, I was in it to the end. So if you don't want to vote for the two old guys, vote for me.
Yeah, I think someone's, you know, I don't think these people really understand the offices that they're running for. And so I think the rumor mill is going around, why is Nikki Haley in there? I think we talked about this months ago, and they're probably, you know, say, hey, you know, if you get back in and that old man Biden has a heart attack, there won't be any delegates for anybody else. So they might just vote you in on the Democratic convention. And I think that's got to be the only play here. And then Nikki Haley, that's the only play for her is for Trump to get, I guess, convicted of something. And then the Republican convention is like, well, we're not going to allow you to vote for this guy. So what's your other choice? It's Nikki Haley. You know, that's the only thing I can see.
It appears. I mean, I don't know. But you know what? It fits for 2024. Why not, right? I mean, this is something that, at least in our lifetime, we've never seen before. I mean, by now, right, everybody would be out of the race, and it would be Trump versus Biden, and they'd be talking about, you know, scheduling debates and all this stuff. But, yeah, it just fits. Why not? And welcome to 2024, everybody. This is why you be diversified. This is why you get that gold and silver put away. 800-951-0592. That is our toll-free number. AllAmericanGold.com is the website. We've got gold and silver up. Matter of fact, gold again flirting with all-time highs this morning. We got I guess now the Fed's new super favorite inflation report. This was a report that, you know, because I've been doing this a long time. This was a report that for most of my career, I don't even know that we reported it. That was how insignificant this inflation report was. The PCE price deflator that tracks absolutely nothing, by the way. But this number now is important because while the Fed says that this number was important, it was very interesting. The number that came out today, month over month, it was up 0.4%. And I know what you guys are thinking. Well, 0.4%, that's not a lot. Well, if you multiplied that by 12, that would put inflation at just under 5% at some nonsense number that doesn't even track inflation. Could you imagine how hot the real number is? But the year or the annual number, so when you take the last 12 months, it was only 2.8. So I guess that's the number they decided to focus in on because they acted like, oh my gosh, this is a great number, right? There's only 2.8. You know, anything below 3%, they want to throw a party. But yeah, the super core indexes up 0.4%. The headline number, by the way, rose 0.3%. That was expected, so that came in right as expected. The annualized rate, like I said, 2.8%. By the way, the core annualized rate for the last 3 months. Now, this is kind of what you need to see here. It was at 2%. It's now at 2.8. Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, 2.8. The last 6 months, it was 2.2. It's now 2.6. So essentially what I'm telling you is there was a lot of fake small numbers early on in 2023 that made the year-over-year numbers look a little better. Services ex shelter also higher, right? So listen, if you don't need to eat or drink and you don't need a place to live, so for all you homeless people, we got homeless listeners out there, I'm with you, right? Up 3.45%, so not quite, I guess you call it, not quite 3.5%, but it was the biggest rise in month over month. It was up 0.6%. So think about that. The service inflation ex shelter, red hot in the number, but somehow Wall Street liked it. Gold loved it, right? Well, that's not a surprise. As you know, gold and inflation, they go together. Patriot Radio News Hour will be back after the break. 800-951-0592, Patriot Radio News Hour. Joe and Jason here on this Thursday. A quick look in at the markets. The Dow's up 20. The S&P's up 14. The NASDAQ's up 79. Gold is up a baker's dozen, right? I don't understand. 2056, 2056. Silver is up 20 cents, 22.60. It's so funny is, when I was growing up in Syracuse, well, we lived in a suburb, Jamesville, New York, and we had it was farms nearby. It was a small town. I worked. Our gym teacher, who was also the JV varsity basketball coach, he ran a farm. And he had, I don't know, maybe 36 head of cattle. And he also ran a sweet corn and vegetable stand. And I ran the stand in the summer. I got paid $2 an hour. And it was $1 a dozen. Right, $1 a dozen. And yesterday, my wife and I were at the store, and they had these 4 ears of corn, like in a package, in the produce section, and it was $4.99 for 4 ears of corn. I was like, man, 12 for $1. And, it was so funny. Every time the farmer would come by, there's customers out there. They got 12 ears of corn. Farmer started yelling, Joey, what are you doing here? And he'd stuff another ear in there. And I'm just like, well, and I just look at him and think to myself, well, just change the sign to 13 for $1, right? And then I'll give him 13. I mean, come on, man. Right? What do you do? But I guess that's what you did. He was a smart guy, right? Because people always kept coming back. I'll never forget that. That was the best job I ever had. Because I didn't have to do nothing. I just sat there. My older brother and his friend, they all had to work out in the fields and do the hard work, Jason. I got to sit back there and just sit there in the shade and wait for people to come by and collect $2.
It's funny what a good job can be, right? And what a good job may not be. But yeah, I got jobs I remember I used to like, and the only thing that makes a good job not a good job is when it doesn't pay the bills, right? You got the best job in the world, and then suddenly you can't pay the bills. It's like, well, I'm going to go take that job that I don't like as much because it's going to pay the bills, I mean, think about it. Working at McDonald's isn't so bad. I mean, you're flipping burgers, you're kind of talking to the guys, right? That thing paid $100 an hour. Who wouldn't do it, right?
Right. Well,
it comes out of economics, right, Joe?
That's right. Go to California. Now they got Congress people saying, hey, with minimum wage should be $50 an hour. Why not? Yeah, see what that does. see what the cost of a Big Mac is if minimum wage was $50, right?
Well,
yeah, but
that's the second thing about inflation. Creation of money is inflation, and then wages. Once the wages come behind the money creation, your inflation's out of control, and wages are still creeping up, pushing that thing up there, isn't it, Joe?
And we're going to get to wages because that's coming up next. That was another interesting number inside of this. And, we started the show with, man, what a weird year this is going to be. And it's a leap year. Why not? Right? That makes sense, too. Of course it's a leap year, right? So February 29th is today. Tomorrow starts March, and it's going to be really interesting. I think March is going to be a very, very interesting month out there, but we've been telling you the need to be diversified here as this market bubbles up, right? The bubble keeps inflating here. We're seeing all these different signs that it's right. It's on. I don't know. They like the baseball analogy. Okay, right? Are we in the 7th inning, the 8th inning? Who knows? We may be in extra innings right now for all we know, but be diversified is going to be the best play, especially between now and in 2030. It's a much different ball game with the debts now at these levels where we're struggling. And that's always the card. The card they've played since 1971 is, well, let's just print more money. 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 And now, all of a sudden, well, we keep printing money, but, man, inflation won't go away, and, man, the bubble's getting ready to burst. And think about how many times it's burst before, and everyone worse than the last one. That's why I'm imploring you out there, check out why refi. Right? You got to have your gold and silver put away. Everybody does. But if maybe you've got a bunch of money in one of your IRA accounts, and you're like, man, you know what? Outside of the Magnificent Seven, you know what? Maybe I do need something, a little hedge, if you will, just in case, right? This thing blows up again. As we saw, remember the financial crisis. Remember the dot-com bubble, right? Some of you been around long enough. You remember 87, right? Up to 10.25% return. That's nothing to sneeze at. And think about this. Something you feel good about, right? We've talked about it. This is private student loan debt. Banks gave tens of thousands of dollars to 18-year-olds, made mom and dad co-sign or grandma and grandpa co-sign, and they graduated. And within 90 days of graduation, most of these people went into collection because they didn't get the job they needed. They didn't have any extra money. Hey, gosh, I got to pay rent now, and I got to pay this and that and the car, and wasn't making enough, but now they are. But you know how they are. You know how they are. Banks love to loan money to people that they know can never write it off, right? That's a big problem. And, of course, yesterday we talked about how 52% of these kids with these college degrees now work jobs that don't either A, don't require a degree or have nothing to do with the degree they even got out there. It's complete nonsense. But great rates of return, not correlated to Wall Street. Check them out, investwhyrefi.com, or just call them at 888-WHY-REFI-24, and it doesn't, and fixed rate, what does that mean? That means it never changes. It doesn't matter what happens. Up, down, sideways, rates go up, inflation goes up, they go down, doesn't matter, it's the same. But Jason, you were talking about wages. Government wage growth fell from a record 8.8% to 7.8% in January. So that was December, hit the record 8.8%. January still red hot, 7.8. I mean, sorry, that just doesn't say inflation's going away. All right, how about the private side? Well, December was 5.6. January, 5.4. So still, also red hot. When you think about we want 2% inflation, it just doesn't get it. Government handouts up $92 billion higher in January than it was in December. The biggest jump since July of 2021. A lot of that having to do with the cost of living adjustments in Social Security. So right start of the year, everyone got more money for Social Security. Jason, incredible. Another $92 billion that we didn't have gone.
So some of those labor increases that are lower, the lower rate of increase, that sounds to me like some of these companies are starting to liquidate some of their higher-end useless workers. You know what I mean, Jay? You got the one guy working $18 an hour, and the guy above him is working $24. And you go to the guys like, hey, we might release this other guy and boost you to $21 an hour. What do you say? You want to take over his job? Sure. And so, yes, his pay went up $3 an hour, but you shed the $24 an hour guy. So things are still going up, but it seems to me that that's a sideways number, Joe. And some of these companies might be trimming the fat, so to speak.
Yeah, and again, jobless claims. I don't know what to say. I can't explain it. The amount of job cuts are just it's off the charts. How many companies say they're laying people off? But jobless claims, 215,000. Now that was higher than last week. Last week was only 202. Continuing claims surging above that 1.9 million number. That's the first time since before Christmas that number's been above 1.9 million. Again, that's a number where when we get above 2 million, you start to worry about, because that just means, hey, I got laid off and I'm not finding another job. But these claims, the Fed used the word, this is the Fed, about these jobless claims number. They called it idiosyncratic. Yes, which basically means, okay, for all, and I had to look at it, idiosyncratic. Yeah, that number makes no sense, right? We don't know. We're not quite sure how the Bureau of Labor Statistics is coming up with the number, but that one doesn't fit.
For a long time. I've been saying this for a long time. I swear it's got to be, because this is first-time jobless claims. It's, the continuing jobless, see, that's going up. It's got to be that the guy lost one of his 2 or one of his 3 jobs. He can't get a first-time jobless claim. Yeah. It's got to be that. It's got to be that, Joe. And so the continuing jobless claims means people that don't have jobs that are having trouble getting the next one, or they're holding out for a good one because, look, I don't want to work the 2. I'm looking for the one good one. I'm going to hold out, and that could be what we're seeing.
Well, this is a story I already reported to you guys a few weeks ago, but now it has been confirmed. Canada's Pension Plan Investment Board has recently done 3 deals in the commercial real estate market at deeply discounted pricing, including the sale of one of its stakes in a Manhattan office tower redevelopment project for a $1. Goldman Sachs came out yesterday, because I think, Jason, you asked this question. How much farther does commercial real estate have to fall? And I'm talking about office towers, right? To take an office tower and convert it into, apartments, condos, whatever you want to call it, luxury apartments or luxury condos, because that's at least here in Arizona, every new apartment says luxury in it, and okay, they're all luxury. How much farther do they have to fall for it to be worth the investment. Because obviously you got to remodel the whole tower, right? And according to Goldman Sachs, they said that prices would need to fall another 50% before companies would be even willing to consider taking office towers and converting them into commercial or residential, I guess, real estate, whether it be multifamily or maybe they do the kind of try to do a New York thing, right? You have you buy your unit type thing. But Manhattan 360 Park Avenue sold for $1. Boston Properties is going to assume the share of the debt. So not quite, right? So they sold it for $1 and then said, hey, by the way, you got to take the debt that goes with it, right? So, but Jason kind of setting a new low in commercial real estate, especially when you consider this was Manhattan.
I saw an article a couple of months ago, and it was very detailed about how you cannot change an office building very easily into apartments. They're wired and plumbed way differently. And so when you say that they need to drop the commercial properties down 50%, that's investor grade drop. And so I think the guys that are holding on, trying to get through the weather the storm, you buy the building 50% off, you renovate it, and you just take all of the renters. That's what this is going to be, Joe. This is get the building 50% off and steal the renters from the other place.
800-951-0592. Joe and Jason, Patriot Radio News Hour on this Thursday. You remember Baghdad Bob? Remember when we were invaded Iraq and he would come out on Iraqi TV and tell them how they were beating the Americans and they were going to triumph and all this stuff. And well, I think that's what's going on with Larry Lawrence. He's the head of the Real Estate Association. Lawrence Young, Larry the Liar, as I like to call him up. It's just not good news. Pending home sales fell 4.9% month over month. December, now remember December, we got this big spike, and we all thought, yeah, remember, because that was when rates, right, they were going to cut rates. I mean, some of them were talking about, they may cut rates in January, right? Look how low inflation's getting, and they said that January pending home sales had surged 8.3%. Apparently that didn't happen. Surged more like 5%. January took it all away. Pending home sales year over year declined 6.82%. And it was all, think about where we were a couple of years ago. I mean, we're like 50% lower than a few years ago. We are approaching the all-time record low for a single month. It was the month we shut down for COVID, and we're right there, right? It's going to be interesting to see. We may even take that month out, if you can believe it or not, but. Leave it to Baghdad Bob, Lawrence Young. Here was his spin. Ready, Jason? The combination of economic conditions, so the combination of really bad inflation and spiraling government debt is favorable for home buying. Yep, that's what he said. However, the consumer is showing extra sensitivity to the change in mortgage rates in the current cycle, and that's what's impacting the sales. See, so Jason, don't worry. The conditions are very favorable for home buying. Just ask the realtor; he'll tell you. Unfortunately, the general public out there disagrees with them. Home purchases have now fallen for 5 straight weeks in a row, and is the lowest levels since 14.95, and we're on the verge of getting back down even further than that. By the way, the South leading the decline, and that's the nation's biggest housing market in the country, happens to be the South. Overall sales, I don't know how they get this. Overall sales are expected to increase 13%, though, according to the National Association of Realtors. Not a great start in January, but hey, who knows? Maybe
he is right, Joe. If the inflation gets hot again, like it looks like it could, and this would be a better time to buy than in the future when they raise the rates. I mean, they'll raise the rates if inflation goes crazy again. And he could be right. This could be the favorable time compared to what is coming if inflation goes crazy. Can you imagine if the inflation starts to just go back up and the Fed raises rates?
What would happen? That would make, you know what, I'll be honest with you. That would fit 2024. Really would. Right? Everybody and their mother thinks the Fed. I mean, think about it. Even the Fed says they're going to cut 3 times. One of them said they're going to cut 6 times. And maybe, you know what, is he right in the wrong way? Now, I don't think that's why he thinks he's right. But,
no, I get
right?
It, yeah.
Could he be right for a reason no one expected? Which is, hey, guess what? You know, it bodes the question. Let's just think about this since you brought it up. Let's just think about it. The reverse repo runs out of money, right? We've got 4 to 6 weeks, and it's empty. I don't even know if it needs to get to empty before real panic sets in. That means less dollars for these banks to buy these treasuries, because most of the money that's being held in the reverse repo are the big banks, and they're the dealers at these debt auctions, right? So they've got to step in and buy. As we know, they're buying 20 to 25% of all these auctions. I mean, some of these auctions, they used to only buy 10%, and they're now buying 20 plus. Well, it's okay when they're using extra money, right? Because that's what the reverse repo, the banks, when the Fed printed all the money and the government printed all the money, all the COVID bailouts, they ended up with extra money that they put in this repo facility. $2.5 trillion on December 31st, 2022. We're now below 500 million. Or 500 billion, sorry, million. What am I saying? Million. 500 billion, right? I mean, we may be below 400 billion. We haven't seen the number. But when that runs out, the banks are like, okay, that was extra money. Wait a minute. Now I got to use this deposit money, right? I can't, but I want to use that extra, that money to buy the Max 7 stocks, right? I want to buy NVIDIA. I want to buy Apple stock. I'm hedging. I'm shorting oil, or I'm going to short silver, or whatever I'm going to do. Now they got to start using that money. And that's a big game changer. Again, I would have to assume that just naturally when this runs out, the auctions get worse, and I would assume rates would just kind of creep up whether or not the Fed raised rates or not, Jason, right? I mean, just less money to buy them. And when you think about, these guys are now big buyers of government debt.
Well, and as I said, I played, and you were on the air on Tuesday when I played it, but I played a Joe Brown video, and he was showing, look, the money supply's gone up here just recently. Yeah, I mean, in the supposed non-printing. So in the movement of the money, Joe, the money print, the money supply has gone up, and so if what you're talking about happens, where hey, the reverse repo is out, and let's just say the Fed is favorable to a Democrat president being hired, so they start printing money, and the inflation comes back. And what do? What do they do to keep a lid on it? They want to get their guy, right? You raise the rates and just keep the printing going. I said this last year, like raising rates and printing, it can happen, absolutely. And then you got inflation up and should have bought a house in 2024 early on.
Baghdad Bob may be right? Hey, Patriot Radio News Hour. We'll be back after the 800-951-0592. Once again, gold, $2,055, back within earshot of all-time record highs. We were running $20 gold pieces yesterday. And I thought, man, it was a great deal yesterday. Going to be even a better deal today. 1 through 19, $2,195. I mean, we're, $140 over the spot price. And when you think about, I mean, that makes sense, if gold was $400 or $500, right? That would make sense there. Maybe at 1,000, that number makes sense. But that 2,055, just a fantastic opportunity here. You buy 20 or more, $2,185 at 800-951-0592. Again, the year of chaos is upon us. And Jason, we also had the Chicago the Managers Purchasing Index. And again, chock full of things that leave you scratching your head deeper into contraction. So this is a thing, 50's like zero. It came in at 44, well below expectations. New orders fell. Employment fell at a faster pace. Inventories fell. Supplier deliveries fell. Production fell, and it fell at a faster pace. And then order backlogs also fell. So as every single factor that they judged in there are all in contraction except for one. Prices paid rose at a faster pace. So, Jason, the Chicago Managers Purchasing Index, so these are companies, these are big companies, they've got a purchasing guy. Yeah, I'm in charge of buying the stuff our factories need, or our employees need, our company needs to operate effectively. And here's what they said. Everything is slowed down in our business, from what we order to our backlog to our employers, our supplies, our inventory. The only thing that didn't fall was the prices we got to pay for everything, and that was actually rising at a faster level than it was the month before.
Yeah, well, I see prices rising constantly also, so not a surprising thing. But, yeah, that's something, isn't it, Joe? There's continually evidence of rising prices all across the board. There's never been a time that said that you should put your savings, your hard-earned extra money into gold and silver than right now. And in the last couple of years, this is why we do what we do, is to protect you from inflation. And I don't hear very many people saying, "Oh, yeah, this thing's going to go way down. It's going back down to old levels." I know the Fed keeps saying, "Well, we have our 2% target," but even then, they're not even saying a whole lot about 2% target lately. So, looks like we got a lot more inflation coming. It's all across the board. I don't hear anybody saying that inflation is going to stop. I've not heard that word. Inflation's stopping. Or when are we going to hear that word, right, Joe?
Yes. No one's talking. Here's words we're not hearing. Right? We need to get the debt under control from Congress, right? We're not hearing that. We're not hearing any talk. By the way, the government shutdown that was tomorrow has been averted with another continuing resolution. 2 more weeks. Yeah, we'll go 2 more weeks. That's going to fix it. Okay, sure, whatever. They can't even agree to cut anything. But Jason, you're right. All as you hear, well, we're hoping it gets closer to our target. And it's never good when they talk, well, we're hoping. Well, what do you mean you're hoping? Right? If you want it to be at your 2% target, get it to your 2% target. It's really simple. Right? And they act like, oh my gosh, we're pausing. No, raise rates 50 basis points. Raise it a point. You got a meeting here in a few weeks. Raise it a point. I promise you, inflation will go back down to your target. They don't want it at the target. Because if they did that, if they actually got it to target, Wall Street would be in shambles. Yep. The vast majority of banks would be out of business. And we would be dealing with another calamity. And, Jason, this is classic house of cards because, it is nonsense. They thrive on our lack of intelligence. Well, we want it to get back down but we want to do it gradually. What? What do you mean gradually? You didn't let it go up gradually. Right? They didn't let it go up gradually. What do you mean? Get it to your target. And the answer really is they don't want it near their target. And all the data I'm seeing right now for January says that the December, the low inflation that they were telling us about in October, November, and December looks like a fantasy, and that inflation is going to be well above 3%, probably closer to 4%, which means what? Probably closer to 8 to 10% for us. And, Jason, where does that leave us, especially now that the reverse repo is going to be out of money?
That's right. And we're looking at all these different things you can buy, in the markets and record highs. But it's not record highs because the average guy is buying it all, right? There's a lot of wealth going upwards buying all this, right? They're ready. They're ready to take advantage. The retail investors don't pump these markets up, and they don't crash them either, Joe. So be wary of these record highs because we know what happens on record highs, Joe. What happens? The bust cycle comes in behind it.
Patriot Radio News Hour, final segment when we return. 800-951-0592. Joe and Jason, Patriot Radio News Hour. Yesterday, Wendys made an announcement. They were going to do, Uber and Lyft. They do this, when there's a big event in town, they jack up the prices, they're surge pricing, late on the weekends, Friday and Saturday nights, it costs twice as much to get home with Uber, and they call it surge pricing. Wendys yesterday said, hey, we're going to start doing the same thing, right? So during breakfast, lunch, and dinner, the 2 hours of breakfast, lunch, and dinner, we're going to jack up our prices. Apparently, that didn't go over too well. Today, Jason, they said, never mind. Apparently, enough of Wendy's supporters decided, do that, and that'll be the last time I go to Wendy's. It's a good sign, I guess, that at least the consumers are saying, okay, wait a minute, enough is enough here. But at the end of the day, when you got to put food on the table, you go to the supermarket, whatever it costs, that's what it costs, right? I mean, you're really out of options. Who was it? The Kellogg CEO now? Eat cereal for breakfast. See, that'll just be cheaper than having, steak and potato. Go ahead and have a bowl of cereal instead. I mean, this is 2024.
I'm not too against Wendys doing that. I think that's actually a good idea. I mean, think about it. They're going to charge more money for the food. They're going to have less people come in because, I ain't going to eat if it's more expensive. They don't have to bring in extra labor for that short burst of people. They'll get the same income for the people that show up because how many people are going to show up because it's not so jam-packed? The drive-thru is not, spilling 2 blocks away, right? And then now their labor costs are better. Their labor costs are better because they don't have to hire the extra people just for the surge hours. Seems to me like I'll bet they'll revisit it. Let me just say this. They probably won't announce it. I'll bet they'll just integrate that same thing. And it's actually a good idea,
Skip the announcement next time, right?
The people that want to get. The people that want to get through that drive-through line faster will pay that extra amount. You better believe it, and they'll probably make the same money, and labor costs will be less. I wonder. It's a business thing.
I wonder if there's a chain out there that deliberately says, I'm going to be near like In-N-Out Burger or Chick-fil-A, right? The places that got the big lines, and then say, hey, we're just going to live off the overflow. The guy that's like, screw this. I'm not waiting in this line. I'll just go. Even though I don't want to go there, I'll go there anyway.
Yeah.
Can you?
Yes. Here in Fort Lupton, right when you cross under the Highway 85 bridge, you're on Highway 52 and you're crossing into Fort Lupton downtown. The first three things right there on the Highway 85, Highway 52 is McDonald's, Burger King, Wendys. Immediately. It's a burger alley, right? And I'll tell you right now, and I'm not big into fast food. I don't eat this stuff anymore. But if McDonald's was my favorite and it's overflowing, I got two choices right then and there I can pull into. So surge pricing makes a lot of sense to me. Yeah.
Well, there you have it, right? A lot of sense is buying $20 gold pieces today. Listen, the new price, just so you know, going to be $22.55. So $60 off, and well, we have the supply here. Again, gold's up 13, 2,055. The Dow's now down 100 points. So maybe someone actually read the inflation numbers instead of just the headline. $20 gold pieces, 1 through 19, $21.95. 20 or more, $70 off, $21.85 at 800-951-0592. Jason and I, we're coming right back with the Half 50.